But first, the Albanese government confirmed today it will drop its disgraceful misinformation bill. They don't have the numbers to get it through the Senate. But as Shadow Attorney General Michaelia Cash pointed out on Sky News this morning, the fact the government came up with this bill in the first place should worry all Australians.
You now have a Prime Minister, Mr Albanese, who's tabled in the Parliament a bill to censor free speech in Australia. He can't get the numbers to ram it through the Senate next week, but Australians need to understand every Labor Party member in the House of Representatives voted for this bill.
Yeah, but just because they've dropped this particular bill doesn't mean the government has ended its love affair with censorship. Don't forget they've still got their plan to introduce identity checks by stealth via the ban on under-16s using social media. And Communications Minister Michelle Rowland released a statement today saying the government invites all parliamentarians to work with us on other proposals to strengthen democratic institutions and keep Australians safe online while safeguarding values like freedom of expression. What does that tell you, James?
It tells you that this government is still committed to censoring the opinions of Australians they don't like. A couple of things to remember about this. That the bill failed to get any support in the Senate from senators who were outside the Labor Party.
Yes.
And during the public Senate hearings, pretty much every person who spoke was against the bill. They said it was vague. They said it was anti-free speech. They said it was rife for abuse. The fact that the government contemplated this, that they even thought, could we do this? Let alone the fact they introduced it into the Senate, let alone the fact that now having to drop the bill because it lacks support, thank God, but they're lamenting the fact that they can't get this done, tells you that this government should not be in charge. When you've got an authority that wants to stop people from saying things they don't like, that's a very dangerous group of people to have ruling the country, and they do not deserve to be in power on the basis that they thought of this.
Well, let's look at how other countries have suffered with such censorship laws. You look at the UK, for example, where some of their authorities, it's a mess, but some of their authorities, James, have even tweeted, be careful what you post. In other words, if you say the wrong thing, you might end up in a jumpsuit, or you might end up hauled in front of a tribunal or a court. This is where it gets very dangerous. Misinformation, disinformation being judged upon by some bureaucrat sitting in an air-conditioned office, and this is where it got dangerous. The fact that Labor wanted to impose this on Australian citizens, it's more likely to happen in China or North Korea or Iran, where they're under communist regimes. You wouldn't expect it in a so-called democratic nation like Australia, yet here we are with the Labor Party now capitulating at the seams. This is a complete embarrassment, a total failure for Labor, and good on the crossbench for sticking up to it. And I've got to say, not even the Greens wanted this. Labor couldn't get this over the line. Labor couldn't get this over the line without their best mates with the Greens.
But the Greens' problem, as Michaelia Cash pointed out, was not that they disagreed with the effort to censor speech. They just wanted a bit more censorship than the Labor government was willing to pursue.
But it's an interesting relationship, Labor and the Greens, though. My concern now is this under-16s, this banning of social media,
Clearly.
OK? Look, I understand you're a parent, so you can speak to this, right? But, OK, but social media is difficult, very difficult for anybody to navigate, especially parents when you've got kids on their phones addicted all the time. But James, my worry here is suddenly every man and their dog are going to have to produce a digital identity, and we're back to square one.
Well, as a parent, Danica, I reserve the right to parent. It's not Anthony Albanese's job or Michelle Rowland's job to parent my children, to decide what news my children can or cannot access, to decide who in my family my children can or cannot communicate via social media, what photographs on Instagram they're allowed or not allowed to look at. That's my responsibility as a parent. We've had enough of the government interfering where they're not permitted, and that is in the family unit. So on that basis alone, I would oppose it. But we all know age verification for children inherently means age verification for everybody.
Absolutely.
And so it's been said ad nauseum that this is going to be a Trojan horse, and we've already seen the government is committed to censorship. They haven't backed down because they've realised the error of their ways.
No, they haven't.
They've backed down because they realised we can't get this through. This is not a surrender, it's a retreat. And they'll come back from another direction.
For now.
That's the problem. Barnaby Joyce, I think, will have a lot more to say about this a little later in the
but
program.
I just want to point out, it's all under the guise of harm minimisation.
It always is.
It always is,
Yeah.
and that's the caveat. It's
that's
very
where
dangerous.
soft-minded people will fall for this kind of thing. Say, oh, you're protecting us. That's great. We don't need the government to protect us from things like information.
No, that's it.